just 3 dimensions away from The Exorcist 2 never happening. I'm your host, 3D Jake, and today we're looking at The Exorcist, released in 1973. The Exorcist is basically a movie that is based on a book by William Peter Blatty, who basically wrote the screenplay for this movie, and the movie is directed by William Friedkin. And the movie stars Ellen Burstyn, Max Vansato, Jason Miller, Linda Blair, and Lee J. Cobbs. The movie is essentially about a little girl and a mom who's a movie star, and her daughter basically plays a board game with a person called Captain Howdy. And basically it turns out Captain Howdy is a demon called Beelzebub, who basically wants to inhabit little Regan. And then, of course, after she starts having outbursts and urinating on the place, and then starts having, just weird things start happening, and she just starts getting really sick and ill. The doctors can't determine what's wrong with her, so they think maybe it's psychological. And then after realize that maybe it's more than psychological, when she basically takes a crucifix and stabs her crotch with it. And then, of course, she basically, makes stuff move around the room with her mind. They come to two conclusions. Either she has telekinesis, or she's possessed by a demon. They go with the latter, and of course, they hire a priest to do an exorcism on her, and that's why this movie's called The Exorcist. The movie, I've seen this movie not many times in my life. The movie times I have seen it, I've always liked it. I will say, there's one time I didn't like it, and I watched the director's cut, and I thought the director's cut was too long and kind of boring. But I watched the theatrical cut, and I feel like that is an evenly paced movie, and I really like the theatrical cut. I have always liked this movie. I think the director's cut, I like that if you want more of the story, but I always feel like the theatrical cut is better. And so this review is the theatrical cut. So if there's things that I say that did not happen in the theatrical cut, I'm sorry, but I'm reviewing the theatrical cut, not the director's cut. So I do like that, Regan's possessed. I like the idea that it's a little girl is possessed, and you think the most innocent thing in the world is a little girl. So you would think that's the most harmless thing. And I like that it kind of turns that on its side. And also, people are really scared of this movie. Essentially, the movie idea is we find religion to be our comfort zone, where basically that is the thing we worship, that is the thing we pray to, that is the thing that makes us feel like if we can count on one thing, when we go to bed, we pray. When we have our troubles in life, we pray. And so that to take that one thing and turn it on its side and make that's the one thing that scares you, the one thing that makes it where, okay, this is not just a simple thing. This is your basically faith is fighting back at you. That's what kind of makes this movie scary. And I've always appreciated that. I've never read the book. I've never have. I've heard the book is really good, and I've heard the movie does cut some stuff out of the book, but the movie's really well done as well. So, and I don't know if it's like the Shining situation where the book's better and the book changes much things. I have heard that some things have changed, but I don't know if it's like a Shining situation or if it's just, because the author of the book wrote the movie too, so it's some fault if he cuts his own things out of the movie. I do like that the movie doesn't have to deal with that mother-daughter, and it's not like a mom overly works. I was expecting it. I even described a friend of mine who I haven't seen in years. I was like, it's maybe about an overworking mom and her daughter gets possessed by a demon. I'm like, not really. The mom's a really great mom and everything. Yeah, she works, but it's not like she's overly, I can't make it today, I gotta go work. No, she just is an actress, and then of course her daughter is all happy living in Washington D.C. and then of course a demon, because the little girl's playing with a Ouija board and a demon gets it. I do like that, the cinematography of this movie has well shot scenes, especially at night, especially when she's possessed by a demon, this has all foggy and the window it glares, and that iconic shot of the priest walking into the house is so iconic that it's on all the posters. Every time there's a poster, even on my shirt, right here, it has that iconic shot because it's just so iconic. It's just this movie is it's just such an iconic film. And I also the father is trying to prove that Regan's possessed. There's a scene where the father's trying to prove, Jason, played by Jason Miller, who he's just trying to prove that, she's possessed so he can go to the Catholic Church and say, hey, look, she's possessed, we need to do something about this. So I've liked that he's trying to do that. And, and I have watched, a bunch of documentaries about this stuff and everything. And I have, and it turns out the scenes where Linda Blair is, rolling on, shaking back and forth, they actually had a harness on her doing that, and she actually hurt her back really bad. And also when she threw up the green blood on them, that's actually when the green vomit, she actually threw up in real life because that vomit was so disgusting in her mouth it made her want to vomit herself. So And also, she had to wear those contacts in her eyes that were glass, and I could not imagine wearing nowadays contacts are plastic. Glass in your eyes that's painted. Ugh, I hate to do that, especially. Ugh. I would imagine it's just really uncomfortable, unpleasant, especially the things she had to go through in that movie. I mean, just imagine anyone that does this in real life. I respect them because it's really hard to do that. And also I heard that the director William Friedkin would actually fire a gun on set just so that way he could get people like just startled and scared, just so that way make the whole scene unsettling. Which now that you do that, that's probably a felony. So. I also like the scene with the cop asking for an autograph. I thought the detective was so funny. He's like talking to her about things. You always think, oh, she's a prime suspect, or there's a prime suspect. No. It's just like okay, your daughter's sick. Okay, all right. Hey, can I get an autograph? And then he's like, yeah, it's for my daughter. And he goes, okay, what's her name? I lied. It's for me. I really watched one of your movies 6 times. I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. I thought that scene was adorable. And, I also like the opening scene, in Iraq, how it just starts out so unsettling. It just, really, there's not really any dialogue until, he starts talking. There's, a couple of quippets, but it's not really any dialogue. And that's, a really scene you have to act to rather than just, just sit there and listen to it. And, and I really respect that because it just makes you unsettling. I kind of do wish that the scene would have just started in Iraq and we don't see the priest. We would have just saw a demon statue, someone undigging a demon statue, and not be the priest. And then eventually, when we go there, we start to realize we connect. Oh, this demon is here. I kind of wish we'd have got that rather than just oh, it's the priest, and because really he has nothing to do with the movie at all. You see him at the beginning and then the third act. So I feel like we could have got that scene rid of him in the first act, and then just come to him in the third act, and it would have really been not the same. It would have just been the exact same thing. Only difference is we don't have him at the beginning because you think he's going to be an important character in this movie because it starts out with him, but no, he's just hey, we had him at the beginning and we have him at the end. And I was like, come on, that's one of my dislikes of the movie, But I do like the score of this movie, though. I think it's so great. I even have that theme song on my phone. And I also like the cast. I think everybody in the cast is just so well done. Linda Blair, Ellen Bernstein is the mom, and you can just see her pain that she's going through. She's like, they're telling me we need to put your daughter in a insane asylum. And she's like, I'm not putting my daughter in a insane asylum. And they're like, well, what can we do? There's nothing we can do. I mean, she's just she's just a daughter that wants her daughter back, and she doesn't realize what's happening, and she doesn't realize that there's a demon inside of her daughter, all these horrible things, Most parents would just give up on their child, but she's not, and I like that it's portrayed and this is an actress that you would think, the cliche thing to do, just an actress just wash her hands of her child, but instead it's just, that she really loves her daughter, and I could see that mother-daughter bond that builds up into this horrible thing that she has to go through. I do dislike that the movie kind of spends way too much time with the preacher, because it's I guess you could say he's the villain, he's the hero of the movie, essentially. So of course, I guess you could say that he's the main protagonist of the movie. So whenever the whole movie spends time with him, but I kind of wish that it would have been the focus of the mother and the daughter, and he would have been more of a supporting character, because rather the movie spends way too much time with him. So much so to where, there's an important scene where he's in the hospital, and rather than staying on that scene, we kind of focus way too much on it goes 1 second, and then all of a sudden it goes back to the priest having that seminar, which I'm just do we really need this scene? Could we have just cut the scene out? Or, we understand he's a priest, so we don't have to see him doing priest things. I mean, I guess we need it for clarification, but we don't really need this. I mean, there's things that if I was the director, I'm we don't need this. We don't need that. I mean, we kind of clarify he's a priest, and so I just think we don't need that. It just spends way too much time with him. I would wish they would spend more time with the daughter and the mom, rather than just the priest have because I think we could explain this whole backstory in under 30 minutes where you don't need all these scenes with him. And also the movie, is I really kind of wish though that was the movies that have brought him, Max von Sydow's character. I just kind of wish that they could have brought him in the third act of the movie, because I feel the beginning should have started out with it could have started out with his mom dying, the priest's mom dying, and then we could have got to the mom and the daughter, and then we could have got to all right, after the mom and daughter, then the daughter gets possessed, and then she has to go through all this, and we get to follow this throughout the whole entire movie, and then we bring the priest into the movie, granularly rather than them just meeting. And then it's like, because I wish they wouldn't have met until the mom is like, have talk about exorcism, and then when they met, then that would have made sense. And then casually, as we bring in the priest, then we'll bring in Max Van Sylt's character when he comes in the third act of the movie. I feel like that would have all flowed naturally, rather than, okay, we have a scene over here with Max Van Sylt, then we never see him again. Then we have a scene with the other priest, and we just gradually build up his backstory. I mean, you could have even explained his backstory in dialogue if you had to. I mean, I'm just saying that, we don't really need all this over scenes and everything. And I feel like nowadays, if this was done by a different director, and I'm not saying that William Friedkin's a bad director. I love his movies. I think he's a fantastic director. But I'm saying if this was done a modern day Exorcist movie, you're not getting all that extras. You're just getting a straightforward narrative story. That they're going to cut that stuff down. They're going to bring in this character granularly. I just think that would have worked better. But I really enjoy this movie. I understand people don't like this movie as much. Like, if you watch this movie for the first time, you probably do not watch it, and because everybody's like, "Oh, this is the scariest movie of all time." And I kind of disagree with that. I don't think it's the scariest movie of all time. I think there are other movies, like Insidious is much scarier than this movie. But I do think that this movie is very good. It's a well-crafted story. I just feel like, that the movie could have been narratively a little bit better. And I do feel like the scares are there. Like, I mean, I just feel like it does have to build up. Because it's kind of like going through a haunted house. But, like, very end is when it gets scary. Like, the third act of the movie is terrifying. When you just see, like, the priest is talking, she's throwing up everywhere, and she's just saying, like, all these vulgar things, like, and, I laughed my ass off whenever she was still telling the priest to stick this cock in her ass. I'm not gonna lie, I laughed. I'm sorry, I laughed at that. I thought that was hilarious, because the swearing, cursing, it was like, I felt horrible that I was laughing at that, but I'm like, it's a movie, so it's like, it doesn't matter. It's not like this is real, but I mean, like, it's a movie. But I kind of laughed at that. I was laughing when all the cursing and shit. I thought that was hilarious. I was like, but I'm just like, but other than that, I mean, this is a really good movie narratively, and not narratively, but story drivenly. Like, the story is very good, and I urge all of you to watch it, even if you dream about writing a horror film, or if you've even dreaming about being a filmmaker. It's well shot, well scored. This is the ideal movie to get you into film school if you want to be like, you follow this film in format. But if I had to give this movie a grade, I would give this movie an A. Thank you so much.